here's my philosophy after 20-some years, 24 years in game, here's what I think about numbers. There are a lot of things you can do to make a number more solid. Absolutely. You can spend more time with the girl. You can have the girl more invested. You can have her friends like you more. You can do all these different things, and you should, right? And if you do all those things, then there's a decent chance a number may actually pan out to something. And then there's still a chance it won't. If I were to say from what you guys would consider to be reasonable approaches, not these like flying backflip tightrope set approaches, like something that's a reasonable approach, whether it be group or single or whatever, my numbers would probably roughly look like this. I will probably get a phone number or better from about 85 or so % of approaches, right? Some of those will be pulls. Also, some of those phone numbers will be girls that blatantly have a boyfriend and I just finagled a number anyway if I'm actually going for it. And here's another thing that might skew the statistics, right? Like, if a girl has a boyfriend, do I bother trying to push for a number there? Because I actually know how to push for a number with girls with boyfriends and get it, but then again, that's going to be a highly flaky number, right? So, you can manipulate the statistics. But we'll say about 85% number or better, some of those are pulls, right?
What percent do you hook?
Huh?
What percent do you hook?
Do I hook? I don't know. It depends what you mean by hook, to be honest.
Like, enough for them to actually want you to stay around. Like, if they're walking and, like, if you walk
Yeah,
away,
it depends. It depends.
It, you know.
It's most. I mean, like, a very high percentage.
Okay.
But yeah, there's one of the most common reasons that I don't get a number or better is that they never hooked, right? That is certainly a segment of it, right? Obviously, the ones that never hooked never were numbers, right? So that is a thing. A lot of girls sort of hook and sort of don't, or, at first, and then it takes some time and stuff like that. But the vast majority. And again, are we talking, girl walking on her phone with her boyfriend, or are we talking girl sitting by herself? Girl sitting by herself, I'm hooking almost always.
Group of girls, nighttime.
Anyway, the point is
Gotcha.
It's all over the place. But so, yeah, pretty good amount of a number or better, right? And some are pulls. Now, all the ones I'm following up with a number are the non-pulls. So it's already a skewed sample. There's also some boyfriend situations in there and stuff like that. But I would say the amounts that are coming out on a date is probably just barely south of 30%, right? Yeah, I usually say 30 to 33, whatever. But yeah, let's just, we'll be conservative. We'll say just under 30%, okay? That's a huge drop-off. That is a huge, huge, huge drop-off. If they come out on the date, I'm going to sleep with, like, again, 90% or something like that, right? So the in-person parts of game, I can be very, very good at. But once the girl leaves my presence, like, fucking all bets are off. Yeah, a lot of it's out of my control. I mean, I did my work. I did what I could, etc. But, what can you do? If you do everything right, like everything, 1/3 of your numbers will maybe show up on a date. Right? And why is that? Because life. Because life happens, right? And really, why is it? It's because the nature of what is game. The nature of what game is, right? Let's go into like the annals of history a little bit, and we'll go into some stuff I actually don't believe, but it's like pseudo-true, and it helps answer your question. So actually, here's a good question. How many of you guys have been studying game since 2020 or before? So 4 years. Most of you. Okay. How many since 2015? Some, very few. How many since 2010? 2005. One guy? Nice. How about since 1999? Okay, it's a long time. Yeah, exactly. So we go way back, all right? So we're going to go all the way back to the days of the first early pickup forums, where the most advanced technology in game was hypnosis, right? It was branded speed seduction, but it was essentially neurolinguistic programming with a lot of like sexualization, essentially. That's what it was. So it was hypnosis. I'm trying to remember. I went so far off on this that I forgot where I was going with. Oh, it's numbers, right? Numbers. Okay, yeah. What is game? Okay, so the idea there was that essentially game is putting a girl in trance, right? You're putting a girl in a hypnotic trance. And so what's the thing about a trance is a very interesting model, which is that during the time a person's entranced in hypnosis, under whatever, they exhibit drastically different behaviors than they do after the hypnosis and before the hypnosis. But once they come out of the hypnosis, they act basically normal again. They act basically like the same people all over again. You know, maybe in theory, if like you hypnotize them and help them stop biting their nails, maybe they come back and they don't bite their nails. But they're essentially, their personality is the same. You're not overhauling their entire personality in like a 10-minute hypnosis session, right? Now, game is not hypnosis, but it is putting a girl in an altered state. When a girl's with you and things are going very well, she is like looking at you and like staring at you with different eyes, and she's feeling a different array of things and all this kind of stuff. She's in that trance-like state. She has different chemicals going on in her brain, different chemicals in her body, different emotions she's going through, etc. And in that moment, when the girl gives you the number, or when the girl begs you and pleads with you to take her number and won't let you leave without taking the number, she genuinely wants to see you again. I promise you, she does. She really does genuinely want to see you again. But the next day, after leaving that trance state and going home and puking in her toilet, or who knows, right? Not probably not, but the point is, whatever array of things, having late night food, staying up with her friends, sleeping, waking up the next day, having, you know, a rough argument with her boss at work, she's in a very, very different state of mind than she was when she met you. To the extent that she's almost a different person, right? And to the extent that it's very hard for her to even recall how she was in that state of mind. And then probably this girl, you're probably not the first guy she's ever given her number to. She's probably given her number to 50, 100, however many guys over the course of however many years, right? And you're now in that category of, oh, that's the guy I met last night, I gave him my number, etc. But she's not remembering every specific, right? Like imagine, okay, here's a good thought experiment for you guys. Think about a situation where, like, go back, like those of you who've been in the game for a while, go back like 6 months or something. Think about a set that you had that was, the girl was so hot, it was so good, but it was 6 months ago. Can you guys remember a set like that? You can't remember, you can't even remember it. Well, that helps. That actually proves my point even stronger. I was gonna say stuff like, what was the girl's name? Right? Right, stuff like that. Or like, you know, do you remember the exact circumstance in which you opened her? Or do you just remember vaguely the set when it was good? Right? Do you remember her friends' names? Do you remember how many girls she was with at the time? Right? You don't remember these details. That's just 6 months ago. It's not the next day. But the point is, you don't remember it either. Right? And so she, in a lot of ways, is just another girl. You talk to another girl that it went well with, and she fades. Right? And that happens like if I look through my phone. There's all these girls, I'm like, oh, this girl was really good. I'm really excited to see her. 3 weeks later, just one of the other 50 girls that I was once excited to see that, you know, I left town and maybe I'll follow up with, maybe I won't, right? It's the same thing for her. So in that moment, she absolutely wants to see you. She's not flaky in that moment. It's not a bullshit number, but life happens. Life happens, and she comes out of a trance, comes out of state, so to speak, right? It would be very different if you were the guy in her office who she's seen every day for 6 months and she gradually developed a crush over time and she has logically decided she wants to date. That guy doesn't get flaked on because she already decided a long time ago, and it's not dependent on her state in the moment, right? But by the nature of the fact that you spent 15 minutes with this girl before getting the number, that 15 minutes it's a very short time, and it's very dependent on the emotions that were present in that moment, right? And it's actually very interesting because to support this theory, what I've found is whether a girl comes out on a date, whether a girl doesn't flake or flakes, has more to do with what's going on in her life than it has to do with you, right? You can run the absolute greatest set with a girl who has all kinds of shit going on in her life and distractions and whatnot. That girl, if she may meet up with you that day or the next day based on how good the interaction was, but if it goes more time than that, it starts to get very, very flaky very quickly. On the other hand, you have the girl that just moved into town, right? The girl that has no friends, is actively, in her mind, my goal is to meet people right now. My goal is to meet new friends and whatever. You can have a very mediocre interaction with that girl, and there's a very high percentage of her coming up and meeting out with you, coming out and meeting up with you, right? Because what's going on in her life is actually a bigger determinant at that point than how the actual set went, right? Now, it's different when you're actually in the girl's presence. Right? When you're in the girl's presence, how well you did makes a tremendous difference in how it goes. Things I could do to reduce my flake rate. Number one thing I could do to reduce my flake rate, stop traveling. Like, stay in town long enough to meet up with the girls. That would be a tremendous reduction in my flake rate, right? And to be fair, the numbers I gave you are kind of assuming that I'm at least sort of in town, not like I'm leaving the next day. These are for girls I actually bother to follow up with because it's actually possible. But yeah, number one thing I could do to reduce my flake rate, stay in the same city. So that a number doesn't have a shelf life of like a few days or a week. It has a shelf life of like forever. Okay, that's number one. Number two thing that I could do to massively make my flake rate less would be to actually have social media and make it good, right? So you guys all should have social media. Why do I not have social media? It's because of my job, right? So I do technically have social media. It says Todd V Dating on it, and if a girl sees it, she's gonna wanna go on date after date after date with me and never sleep with me. So that's what happens when girls find out my job. So that's why I don't have it. And because beyond that, if I just had normal social media apart from that, I don't really want the girls I meet meeting each other or having connection to each other or shit like that. It's just I have a very weird life in terms of that. One, because of my job, and two, because I have a serious relationship with kids and then an open relationship at the same time, and I really don't want any mixture of the two. Right? So that's why I don't have social media. It's a sacrifice I make for my lifestyle. You guys should fucking have social media and you should make it good. Because if when you get a girl's number, you also exchange social media, and then she sees your social media and you look cool, that increases the chance of it not being a flake because you have the influence you had on her at that moment when you met her, and then you have her checking back and getting interested in your life or being reminded that your life's cool and that kind of stuff. That's a massive, massive benefit, right? You also have the social proof elements of it, all those kind of different things, right? Typically, a phone number is much better than social media for getting a girl out within the first 3 to 4 days. But any girl that's not coming out within 3 or 4 days, having that social media is a huge benefit because it allows her to see your life and see you're cool and that kind of stuff. Right? So that's a tremendous thing that I could do to reduce flaking. Go to more cool events and even throw more cool events. Right? If I have something to invite the girl to other than just, hey, let's grab a drink. Number one, it's a less invested thing for her to come out to. So if she's on the fence, she can come out to it and it's less of a date kind of thing. And number two, it's a thing I can ping the invite over and over and it's not needy, right? You can keep inviting, if you're like have like a little bit of a promoter-ishness or a little bit of an event thing, you can keep inviting someone to your parties over and over as like a social invite and it's not needy, it's not creepy, it's not whatever. Whereas if you keep saying, hey, let's get a drink, now you're that pushy guy, right? And I've seen guys that literally have like very, very mediocre game. They just collect the girls' numbers and they actually like have almost like a customer relationship manager within their phone for all the different types of girls, and they just invite them to events over and over and over again. And 6 months later, the girl's, broke up with her boyfriend and is bored one particular night and just has nothing to do, comes out to one of your parties, and all of a sudden she's a live lead again.